I got less than a month of training of menopause, and some of my colleagues don't even get that.
At the 20th anniversary of the reporting of the Women's Health Initiative, and taking stock of what has happened in those 20 years, very little.
We go through puberty and everybody's happy and excited and you can't wait. And then you go through pregnancy and it's parties. You go through menopause and nobody wants to hear about it.
Yep.
Well, too bad, because they're about to hear about it. That was a clip from The M Factor, Shredding the Silence on Menopause, which is a groundbreaking documentary that premieres tonight on PBS. The documentary breaks down the myths and challenges of menopause, and it aims to educate society, eliminate the stigma for the 1.1 billion women who will be in menopause by 2025.
Yeah, so joining us to break it all down is award-winning journalist and women's health advocate and PICS family member Tamsen Fadal, and women's health expert and chief medical officer at Alloy, Dr. Sharon Malone. So welcome to both of you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on to talk about what has been taboo for a lot of folks to talk about, right?
Tamsen, you have been busy.
Yes.
I remember when this was just a seed of an idea. You were traversing the lower 48, and you'll get to Alaska and Hawaii as well, because I know how you are. Talk to us about, you had the seed for this film. And I know you well enough to know you're like, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to cross the bridge as I'm building it. Now it's premiering around the world. What are you thinking? What was the mindset? How has it changed?
Thank you for saying that. And you both have known me for a long time, years and decades, I think.
Yeah.
But this was something that really hit home for me, and I couldn't let go of it. Once I started, figured out that I was in menopause, figured out that there were not a lot of resources that I had available, and then figured out all these women that didn't have the resources or access to doctors who were willing to talk about it, understood how to talk about it, and explained it the right way. I thought that has to come together. And so, it started out like, hey, maybe it's something I put up on YouTube and see what happens. And then it kept growing, because I think that the need for the information just seems like it keeps growing to me.
I mean, that clip we just saw talked about how doctors don't even get a lot of training in menopause. Why is that?
Well, doctors don't get enough training because there was a study that came out 22 years ago called the Women's Health Initiative. And that's where all the negative connotations of hormone therapy really started. And in those 22 years, now imagine there's an entire generation of doctors that have not been adequately trained in menopause. So that's why these conversations are not happening. But I'm one of the old people. I practiced before that study came out. And I know that there was a very different way to do it. And now we're finally getting back to that.
And you wrote a book about it, Grown Women Talk. Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Amen.
Because I think, and we've all discussed this. My mom, who's 87, I had no idea she was going through menopause. My sister, who's 57, anyone within a 2-inch radius knew that she was going through something. And so it's been associated with doom and gloom. Has that changed? Has it evolved?
Look, I think that it's associated with a taboo, right? That comes around, are you relevant anymore after you're past your reproductive years? And I think that that's where a lot of that taboo came from. I do feel like the conversation is shifting a bit, but there's so, as we know, we were just in the green room and we're like, gosh, we talk about this a lot. And then you just realize there's so many more women that have not heard about this. But doom and gloom, do you feel like we're turning a corner?
Oh, I think we're definitely turning a corner, because I think that people's perception of what and who a menopausal woman is has changed dramatically. And I think that Tamsen's had a lot to do with it, and really the people who have been active in social media, because we are creating a new narrative for what life is supposed to be like after 50. And I think that once women understand that menopause is really not something to be feared, it's actually a phase of life that can be quite productive. We are two examples of people who have gotten to this point in life and really pivoted and changed our lives. So we are seeing these images, and I think women should not approach it with trepidation.
I think I go along with a lot of women who say that they watched some of your videos and saw this like aha light go on and said, oh my gosh, I think that's me, because my doctor never talked to me about it. I mean, and I feel like a lot of folks go through that, whether they're dismissed or the conversation is just never had. Did you find that experience?
Yeah, I mean, I had, and what started out for me is I had a note in my patient portal after I went through some blood work, and it said, "In menopause, any questions?" 4 words. And then it was like, that, it just kind of, it was like a dangling sentence at the end, and I thought, what is that? Now what do I do? What does that mean? Right. And while I look at it now and think, oh gosh, it's kind of like funny that happened, it wasn't funny. I looked at it, it was very emotional. It was physical at the same time because I was having all of these symptoms. And, you know, I lost my mother to breast cancer, so I didn't have a lot of information, or I had a lot of misinformation actually about what I could do as a solution. And so it was really confusing. I thought my story was unique. It's anything but. And, you know, Dr. Malone knows one woman after another, everybody she talks to, you know, approaches and is really confused about what to do. And that's what we're trying to stop.
And no 2 women experience it the exact same, which I think is another reason why, you know, we can't pinpoint it, we can't put it in a box. Dr. Malone, is it true that there's 34 symptoms of menopause and probably more?
And growing.
Yeah,
yes.
I believe it. I believe it. Why is that? Why is there no one thing? For example, I think of you once a day because, true story, I come in here in my sneakers, and in the past 6 months, I changed my sneakers, I put on my big girl shoes. My feet are so sweaty. Yeah. And I'm like, damn, is this a sign of menopause? Because my feet never used to sweat, and I'm an athlete. So
sweaty feet and Tamsen.
I think but they don't stink. They don't stink. These are very nice smelling feet. But I think of you because in my mind, I'm like, this is what this woman is really like shouting from the mountaintops. And I'm like, oh, and had you not brought light to this, I'd just be like, oh, I got sweaty feet.
Right. I think that most women, when they think of menopause, again, once that they're thinking about someone that's much older, couldn't possibly be happening to me, and there is that, what we call the perimenopause, or that transition, and that's really when most women are most symptomatic. And it happens when you're still having your period. That's why the light's not going on and saying, oh, maybe this has something to do with menopause. And there are a lot of symptoms that you don't think about. It's not just about hot flashes. It's about brain fog. It's about hair growth where you don't want it, hair loss where you do want it. It's about painful sex. It's about urinary tract infections. Even mood disorders, depressions really starts to spike in that perimenopausal change. So there are a lot of things that women are addressing their symptoms one by one, never making the connection that, oh, this is all part of this menopausal transition that we're experiencing.
I'm sure there are a lot of women at home right now going, check, check, that's me, that's me. So what are the solutions? And do all women have to go through hormone therapy?
No, all women do not have to go through hormone therapy. But let me say this, the most effective treatment for the symptoms of menopause is menopausal hormone therapy, and that's period, end of sentence. And I think a lot of women don't think that menopausal hormone therapy is for them because we have all these misconceptions about who can and should take hormones. And I think that there has been a lot of fear based around that conversation, really, as we're talking about, this is Menopause Awareness Month and it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And breast cancer is probably women's biggest fear and the reason why they avoid it. But that is really not accurate. And we have been trying to walk that information back for 20 years, and it is just now breaking up. So women need to be more informed. You know, I think that at a baseline, everyone should adopt a healthy lifestyle. I mean, exercise, eat right, get sleep, all of that. Right. But women do that, and they're still bothered. And in that case, your solution to that should not be, well, I'll just endure it.
Right. Well, let me just suffer in silence. You don't need to.
And that's what we've got to do. We've got to be a little bit more, we've got to listen more to women's suffering and to let them know that there is a safe, effective solution for most women who choose it, and that is menopausal hormone therapy.
Tamsen, because you have nothing else to do with your life, you have a book. Oh my goodness! Tell us about your book. It's drops next year. Yes.
It's on pre-order now. It's called How to Menopause, and you know, I did so many incredible interviews for around the documentary, and then I just kept doing them. And so I say it's expert driven, girlfriend approved, but there's 42 experts in it. But I wanted to go past the doctor's office and say, beyond the doctor's office, what other parts of your life does this affect? Because it does. And you know, to the point that we were talking about, this can affect the whole second half of your life. So we talk about what happens in the bedroom, what happens in the workplace, what happens when it comes to your brain, and then actionables that you can take away. So that was really important for me.
Wonderful. Well,
Like a true journalist.
Yeah.
Oh,
Only one you could be, right?
thank you. Thanks for having us. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
Great conversation. Thank you, ladies.